Welcome everyone to my channel. Please support me with a like and a subscription. I'll be delighting you with new stories every day. Thank you, and enjoy. I always thought I knew who I was. Until my father died. The funeral was silent, as if the very air was afraid to move. There were no loud speeches, no familiar sobs. Only the rain, soft, viscous, as if washing away everything left unsaid. I stood by the grave, clutching my umbrella, and thought how strange it was. I felt no pain. Only emptiness. Probably because there had been nothing between us to lose for so long. My father left when I was 9. My mother told me then that he had chosen a different life. Since then, I have lived without him, studied without him, grown up without him. And yet, I came to say goodbye. After the ceremony, a lawyer approached me, a man of about 50, with a neat gray beard and the cold gaze of a man accustomed to delivering bad news. Elena Andreevna? He clarified, although he seemed to already know. I nodded. I need to talk to you about your father's will. The will? I asked. Really? After all this time? He nodded briefly. Tomorrow at 10, at this address. He handed me a business card. There will be another party present. What party? Your sister, he answered calmly. Anna Rudenko. I didn't immediately understand. Excuse me, who? Half-sister, he said, as if it were something perfectly normal. She's also mentioned in the will. I stood in the cemetery, under the gray sky, trying to digest what I'd heard. My father had another family. Another daughter. And he didn't even think it necessary to tell me about it. I didn't sleep that night. Questions that no one was going to explain to me swirled in my head. Why me? Why her? Why a secret? When morning finally arrived, I already knew one thing. If the truth was out there, I would find it. The lawyer's office was in an old mansion in the city center. Everything there looked too perfect. Expensive curtains, an oak desk, leather-bound folders. I'm glad you're here, he said when I entered. Please, sit down. A girl was already sitting next to me. I knew it was her even before he introduced me. Anna, my sister. She was beautiful. In that unpleasant, perfect sense of the word. Smooth chestnut hair, an expensive coat, hands with a manicure that probably cost me a week's salary. She looked at me as if she already knew everything about me. Hello, Lena, she said calmly. I've heard of you. Well, I haven't, I replied. Silence fell over the room. The lawyer seemed accustomed to such scenes. He read dryly, without emotion, in accordance with the last will and testament of Andrei Sergeyevich Rudenko, all movable and immovable property, including the house on the embankment, is transferred to Anna Rudenko. He paused. Lena Rudenko is left a car, a book collection, and a letter. A letter. It took me a moment to realize I'd misheard. Excuse me, what? A letter, he repeated, handing me the sealed envelope. Anna looked down, as if embarrassed. Although I doubted she knew that feeling. I took the envelope. My father's handwriting was on it. Uneven, yet recognizable. Lena, if you want to understand. My insides clenched. Understand, what? Betrayal? Or that he didn't need me? As I left the office, she caught up with me at the door. Lena, she called. Wait. I stopped without turning around. Why? I know how it looks. But it's not my fault. I didn't even know he was hiding you. I turned around. Really? And now that he's dead, for some reason you want to talk? She sighed. I just wanted you to know. I'm not the enemy. As long as you don't touch what's not yours, I replied and left. I sat at home for a long time with the envelope in my hands. I couldn't bring myself to open it. I was afraid it would contain an explanation that would make it even more painful. But then she tore the edge. Inside were several pages. The handwriting was shaky, smudged in places. Lena, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But if you're reading this letter, it means you still want to understand. You have a sister. It's not an accident. She's not to blame. But there are things she shouldn't know. Find the key, it's in the house on the embankment. And then you'll understand why everything happened the way it did. I reread it 3 times. The house. The key. The secret. My insides tightened with a strange premonition. If my father was hiding something, I was going to find out. Even if I had to become someone he never wanted me to be. The house stood on the corner of the old neighborhood, massive, stuccoed, with windows looking directly onto the river. I remembered it vaguely. I think we'd passed by once when I was a child. My mother had said that the rich but unhappy lived here. Now this house belonged to my sister. And yet, that's where, according to my father, the key should have been. I walked up to the gate and pushed it. It opened easily, without a creak. As if someone had recently oiled it. The yard was well kept, the paths gravel. The air smelled of damp earth and apple trees. Everything looked too alive for a place where no one lived. I knocked. The door opened almost immediately. A man of about 40 stood on the threshold, wearing a dark shirt and with a tired look. Lena Rudenko? He asked, as if checking. Yes. I'm Sergey. The manager. They were expecting you. Expecting? I repeated. Who? He shrugged. The landlady gave orders. If you show up, let me in. I grimaced. The landlady. So, Anna. She knew everything. Even that I was coming. The house was too big inside. The emptiness here had a sound, resonant, cold. I walked down the hallway, the floorboards creaking under my feet, and felt a strange sense of déjà vu. Photos hung on the walls, my father hunting, my father in his study, my father with a girl about 10 years old. Not me, her. My heart sank. I couldn't look for long. When he died, Sergey said quietly, the owner left everything as is. Like a memory? More like a museum. We went up to the 2nd floor. This was his office, he said, opening the door. The room smelled of tobacco and old paper. On the desk was an inkwell, a couple of yellowed sheets of paper, and a stack of books. And nothing else. Are you looking for something? He asked. A key, I replied. I don't know what it's for. He nodded, as if unsurprised. There are too many keys in this house. One for every closet. One for every door. I sighed. Did you know my father for long? 15 years. He was a difficult man. But I don't think he was evil. Just with secrets. Did you know about me? I knew, he said. But I wasn't allowed to tell you. I turned to him. Why? That was the condition. As long as he was alive, no interference. I looked at him carefully. He spoke calmly, but there was something more to his voice. As if he not only knew the secret, but was involved in it. I went to the window. A cool breeze blew in from the river. A man with a dog walked slowly along the embankment. I stood looking at the water, and suddenly felt a dull anger rise within me. They all knew. They were all playing roles. And I stood here, like an outsider, in a house where my name meant nothing to anyone. If you find what you're looking for, Sergey said, are you sure you want to know? I turned around. I'm sure. He nodded. Then looked downstairs. He always kept the basement locked. The basement door was indeed locked. I tried the keys on the table, none worked. But I noticed a small scratch on the bottom step. As if someone had been there recently. Sergey, do you have a key? No, he said too quickly. Then who? He looked away. The landlady was here a few days ago. She asked me not to let anyone in. Of course, I said dryly. Especially me. As I was leaving, he stopped me at the door. Lena, he said quietly. Don't think I'm on her side. Then whose side are you on? The side of the truth. He looked straight into my eyes. But the truth rarely makes anyone happy. I left the house with a heavy feeling in my chest. The evening city had a life of its own, cars, lights, laughter outside the restaurant windows. And I felt as if I'd entered a story from which there was no escape. The keys I'd found jingled in my pocket. One of them was unusual, old, brass, engraved with the letter R. I clutched it in my palm. And for the first time in a long time, I realized, I don't just want to know the truth. I want to make them regret hiding me. I didn't sleep almost all night. The key with the letter R lay on the bedside table, dimly gleaming in the moonlight. I didn't know what it belonged to. But I knew one thing, it was mine. Sometimes things choose who they belong to. By morning, I already knew what I'd do. I'd go to the house again, when Anna was sure I'd given up. I had no appetite for breakfast. I leafed through my father's letter again and again, trying to find a hint. Find the key. In the house on the embankment. And then, nothing. No instructions. Only fog. But in the last line, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. In the margins, barely legible, he'd written, "Don't trust faces, trust words." I returned to the house at lunchtime. Sergey opened the door almost immediately, as if he'd been waiting. "You're early," he said. "I thought you'd come this evening." "So you knew I was coming?" He smiled faintly. "There are some people who can't be stopped. You're one of them." "And you," I replied, "observe too much." "It's my job," he said calmly. I went back up to the office. Everything was the same there. But now I looked at it differently, not as a room, but as a map. On the desk was a folder of documents. Among the papers lay an envelope, almost identical to the letter. But this one was unsigned. I opened it. Inside was another letter. Only this time it wasn't for me. "Anna, if you ever read this, know that you're not the first, nor the last, person I've let down. You were a reminder to me that everything can start over. But the past doesn't go away. It just waits for us to make the same mistake again." I reread it 3 times. The words burned my fingers. He wrote one thing to me, another to her. But why? I felt a strange mixture, jealousy and resentment, as if my father still knew how to make me feel unwanted even after death. There was a knock at the door. I quickly put the letter back. "May I?" Sergey's voice was cautious. "Of course." He entered and set down a tray of tea. "Did you find anything?" "Not yet," I lied. He looked at me intently. "Be careful, Lena. This house doesn't like other people's secrets." I chuckled. "That sounds like a threat." "Like advice," he replied quietly. "I saw your father and Anna arguing here. The last time was a week before he died." I froze. "What?" "She came at night. They were shouting." I didn't hear the words, only his phrase, "You don't understand where this is leading." After he left, I stood in the middle of the room, feeling everything around me as if breathing the past. On the wall, between the paintings, hung a clock. The hands stopped, at exactly 2:47. I didn't know why that particular moment caught my attention, but something clicked inside. I took the clock off the wall. On the back was a small lock. I took out the brass key. It fit perfectly. Click. The clock opened, and several envelopes fell out. There was no address on them. Only dates. The earliest, 15 years ago. I opened the first one. "You still believe the truth will set you free. But the truth is a cage. If it comes out, everyone will suffer." My father's handwriting. But it wasn't addressed to him. The next envelope read, S. Sergey. I froze. So he wasn't just the manager. He was part of all this. The door slammed downstairs. I flinched. Voices. I recognized one of them immediately. "Anna." I stuffed the letters back, slammed the watch shut, turned the key, and hid it in my pocket. "Lena," the voice called. "Are you here?" I took a step toward the door. "Yes. And you, as always, are on time." She climbed the stairs, light and confident, with perfect posture. They told me you came again. I thought, why waste time on old grievances? Why, I chuckled, really? You have everything now, the house, the money, the memories. She narrowed her eyes. Don't start. What if I've already started? Something sharp flickered in her gaze. You know, Lena, you might think you understand everything. But it's no accident that Dad didn't leave you anything. Sometimes that's also protection. From what? From the truth? From myself, she said calmly and left. When the door closed behind her, I finally allowed myself to exhale. But inside, everything was seething. She knew. She knew more than she was letting on. I pulled one of the letters out of my pocket, not the one I'd read, but the other one, signed S. I unfolded it. If things don't go as planned, don't look for me. Take care of L. I froze. L, is that me? Sergey. Father. Anna. All three, connected. And I stood in the center of someone else's pattern, not even understanding what exactly I had inherited. Only now did I understand, revenge would be more than just personal. It would be the only way to understand which of them had betrayed me first. I walked down to the river as the sun was already setting. The house on the embankment cast a long shadow, as if a trace of the secret that lay within. The bag on my shoulder weighed down on the strap. Letters, a key, my father's notebook. Everything I had managed to hide. I walked toward the water, not knowing why. I just needed to move. To breathe. With every step, the feeling of increasing cold didn't leave me, as if someone was following me. You don't know how to hide. Sergey's voice sounded calmly, almost softly, behind me. I didn't turn around. And you don't know how not to watch. He came closer and stopped next to me. We stood silently, looking at the water. The waves gently crashed against the concrete edge, and their sound was like breathing. Why are you here? I finally asked. Because you're somewhere you shouldn't be. I chuckled. It's funny to hear that from the man whose name is on the letter I found on my father. He didn't answer right away. He just turned to me. Have you read it? Yes. Then you understand that it doesn't say everything. Explain, I said. He shook his head slowly. It's better not to know. I already know too much to stop. Sergey sighed and ran his hand through his hair. Your father. He wasn't who you remember. What? He wanted to protect you. Even at the cost of others. I stepped closer. From whom? From you? From Anna? Something sharp flashed in his gaze, as if I'd touched something raw. From the past, he finally answered. Which won't let go. We stood in silence. The wind fluttered my coat, the water tinkling softly like glass. I turned to him. Tell me the truth. Did you have anything to do with his death? He looked straight at me. No, but I was there. The world seemed to shake. What? That night, he called me. Said he wanted to hand over the documents. Then, a sound. A fall. I ran, he was already dead. Why didn't you tell me? Because there were her footprints on the stairs. Anna's? He nodded. And if I had told her, she would have been blamed. And I didn't know if she was guilty. I took a step back, feeling the ground shift from under my feet. All the pieces of the puzzle I'd been putting together crumbled again. You covered her? I whispered. I didn't want to destroy the family. I laughed, briefly and dryly. It's too late. The family is already dead. He took a step toward me. Lena, don't call me that. Okay. But listen, if you continue, you'll uncover more than just her. You'll find things that shouldn't come to light. I looked at him defiantly. And if I still want to? Then, you'll have to choose who to trust. He handed me something. A small silver pendant, tarnished, with the letter L scratched into it. Your father was holding this when I found it, he said. I kept it. I thought I'd pass it on to him when the time was right. I took the pendant, clutching it in my palm. The metal was cold, almost icy. Why now? Because now you're ready. For what? He looked at me for a long time, too long. For the truth isn't about justice. That evening, I sat in the hotel, twisting the pendant in my fingers. Inside was a tiny clasp. I pressed it, and the lid swung open. Inside was a photograph. Old, faded. My father, me, and the woman standing next to me. Not my mother, Anna. I stared at the picture until it hurt. Everything I'd heard her say suddenly took on a different meaning. She didn't just come into our lives later. She'd always been there. The phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Lena. Anna's voice was even, emotionless. We need to talk. Tomorrow. At the house. Without witnesses. Why should I come? Because you don't know everything. And because if you don't come, someone else will. Click. The connection was lost. I sat in the darkness, feeling a chill run down my spine. Outside, rain beat against the window. The pendant, glittering silver, was reflected in the glass. A silver lie. That's probably what it meant. I knew one thing, tomorrow everything would change. But who would deceive whom first, that was yet to be seen. The morning was heavy, as if it didn't want to start. The gray sky was oppressive with low clouds, and the city looked like an old photograph from which all the colors had been erased. I stood in front of the house on the embankment, holding the pendant in my pocket. It seemed warmer than yesterday. As if something lived within it that I couldn't understand. Anna was late, as always. She walked in confidently, wearing a milky coffee-colored coat, her hair pulled back, her lips flawless. Her confidence was irritating. I thought you weren't coming, she said. Neither did I replied. We entered the house. It was quiet inside, as if the walls were holding their breath. So what do you want? I asked. Another performance? Or an admission that you knew all along that your father didn't die by accident? Anna sighed. You always want everything to be simple. Black and white. But life is shades of gray, Lena. Stop talking like you're wiser than everyone else. You just took advantage of him. Took advantage of him? She smirked. Do you really think you would have anything if it weren't for me? I had a father. I cried out. Until you came along. He was always with me, she said quietly. Even before you. I froze. What? He loved your mother, yes. But we met before you were born. I left. And he stayed with her. Because it was the right thing to do. And then, when she died, he called me back. You're lying, I whispered. Look at the pictures, Lena. The old ones, the ones where you were little. Who's holding your hand? I've always been there. You just don't remember. I didn't know what to say. The world was rocking. My father, my mother, Anna. Everything I thought was true was crumbling. Anna came closer. I didn't come for his money. I came to finish what began 20 years ago. And what began? She took out an envelope. This is for you. From him. With trembling hands, I opened the letter. It was my father's handwriting. The same one I'd seen hundreds of times. Lena, if you're reading this, it means it's already over. Forgive me for not being able to explain. I left Anna what is rightfully hers. But the real inheritance is yours. It's not in money. It's in truth. And the truth is you. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I forced myself not to cry. What does this mean? Anna shrugged. I don't know. But it seems he wanted you to figure it out yourself. Convenient, I chuckled. Say, I don't know, and run away. She looked at me with unexpected gentleness. Lena, you think I'm an enemy. But I've lost just as much. Lost? You have everything, the house, the name, the money. And you have his heart. Even after death. Silence hung between us, thick and heavy. I wanted to say something harsh, but I couldn't. Anna stepped closer. If you want to know the truth, go to Sergey. He knows more than he's saying. But be careful. He was part of this too. What this? The thing that killed your father. She turned toward the door. And, Lena, if you decide to dig further, don't come back here. This house doesn't forgive the curious. After she left, I stood alone for a long time. The letter trembled in my fingers. My father's words seemed to burn under my skin. The real inheritance is yours. The truth is you. What did he mean? I walked around the house as if for the first time. Paintings hung on the walls, but one of them stood out strangely. A seascape. Signed, S. V. R. Sergei Viktorovich Romanov. I lifted the canvas and found a safe behind it. The same brass key I'd found earlier fit perfectly. Inside lay an old cassette tape and a note, "Don't trust anyone. Not even those close to you." When I left the house, Sergei was already standing outside. He held an umbrella in his hands. A drizzle had begun, as if everything around him were preparing for another storm. "You found something again," he said without asking. "Yes. And I think now you'll explain everything to me." He looked at me for a long moment, carefully, as if weighing whether to speak. "Then let's go," he said finally. "It didn't all start here." "Where?" "On the water." We drove in silence. The road led out of town, to the pier where my father's boat had once been moored. The waves crashed against the wooden deck. The sky was low, almost black. Sergei stopped, got out, and leaned over the water. "They found his body here. Not in the house, like you were told." I froze. "What? They moved him? To hide where it all happened?" "Who?" He looked up. "The one he trusted most." "You?" He didn't answer. He only said quietly, "I made a choice then. And now I'm paying for it." I stepped closer. Just a few centimeters separated us. The water reflected in his eyes. "And I said quietly, will make mine." The wind picked up. Raindrops fell between us, dissolving the silence. Everything around me seemed to stand still. Two people, two truths, two betrayals. And somewhere deep inside, I knew, this was only the beginning. The rain intensified, as if someone from above had decided to wash away the traces of all the mistakes, but was 20 years too late. We stood on the pier until the wind began to beat against our faces. Sergei was silent, for too long. "You said he was found here. But why doesn't anyone know about it?" He looked at me from under his brows, his eyes tired and dark. "Because I kept them quiet." "Them?" I clenched my fingers. "Who?" "Anna. And one other person." "Who?" "It's better for you not to know," he answered quietly. I chuckled. "It's too late, you've already dragged me in." He looked away, as if weighing something. "Okay. Then let's go. I'll show you what I shouldn't have kept." We stopped at the old caretaker's house on the shore. Sergei, of course, had the keys. The inside smelled of salt and dust. He placed a tape on the table, the same one I found in the safe. "There's a recording here. Your mother, your father, and someone else." I froze. "My mother?" He nodded. "I didn't know either, until I heard it for the first time." He turned on the tape recorder. Noise, creaking, then voices. "You shouldn't have done that," a woman's voice, weak but familiar. "You're playing with fire." "Does he know?" asked a man, my father. "No. But if he finds out, it'll all be over." "I can't stop. This is more than just." The recording cut out. I clenched my fists. "What does this mean?" Sergei turned off the tape recorder. "I think they were talking about money. Or about a document someone tried to hide. But after that conversation, your mother died. And then your father." He nodded. "It's all connected." I paced the room, restless. Everything I knew about my family was falling apart. "Why did you hide all this?" I asked. "Because I promised." He came closer. "I had to protect you both." "From what?" "From the past." "From the truth," I corrected. He sighed. Sometimes the truth destroys faster than lies. I looked straight into his eyes. And what destroyed you, Sergey? He fell silent. For a moment, I saw in him not a man hiding something, but a man simply in pain. More pain than he was willing to admit. A wind blew through the window, and the candle flame on the table flickered. He took a step toward me, almost unconsciously. Less than a meter separated us. I caught a scent, sea salt, wood smoke, a hint of coffee. Don't look at me like that, he whispered. How so? As if I were the answer. I chuckled softly. And if you really do become one? He looked down. Then you'll have to pay for it. I'm already paying, I said. Every day. He walked away, as if afraid of his own thoughts. Tomorrow I'll take you to the archives. They might have the originals of those documents your father spoke of. Perhaps doesn't sound certain. I stopped being certain the day he died. And you? I paused. Did you love him? He frowned. In what sense? As a friend. As the person you're doing all this for. I loved him, he answered simply. He was what a father should have been to me. Then why didn't you say anything? Because sometimes, to preserve a person's memory, you have to destroy part of their truth. I walked over to the table and turned the tape back on. This time, the recording continued. If something happens, take Elle. Don't leave her with them. With whom? With those who come for the papers. They don't want her, they want a name. My voice trailed off. I turned to Sergey. They want my name? He nodded slowly. I think so. Your father signed something over to you. Something that started this whole chain of events. Documents. I exhaled. In the archives? If I'm lucky, yes. When we left the little house, the rain had almost died down. Sergey walked beside me, silently. I felt his gaze, warm, attentive, but cautious. As if he only allowed himself half a step, not closer. You haven't told me the whole truth, I said, without looking. Perhaps. Why? Because if I tell you, you'll leave. I looked at him. Maybe I should leave now. He smiled faintly. But you won't leave. I sighed. No, I won't leave. When we reached the car, I turned back to the river. The water's surface trembled in the gray light, as if something were moving beneath it. Deep, I thought. This is probably how those who have kept the truth beneath the surface feel for too long. And now, I'm one of them, too. The archive was on the outskirts of the city, in an old former bank building. Inside, the smell of dust, paper, and time filled the air. Everything sounded muffled here, even footsteps. Sergey walked ahead, confidently. I followed him, feeling like a schoolgirl trapped in a restricted area. Are you sure they'll let us in here? Not quite. But we'll try. He showed a document to the guard, who glanced at it and waved. Apparently, they knew Sergey here. We climbed to the third floor. Rows of metal cabinets, numbered plaques, and a silence that made even breathing seem loud. This is where they keep the files of closed companies, he said. That's what we're interested in, too. I ran my finger along the shelf, a streak of gray dust remained at the tip. What exactly are we looking for? He sat down at the bottom row. The name is Cerebro Limited. That was the name of the company that was in my father's name. Formally, no. On the papers, it was you. I froze. I was 10 years old, Sergey. Exactly. No one would have thought a child could own an offshore company. A smart move if you want to hide money. He found the folder he was looking for. Thick, darkened by time. When he opened it, I felt my heart sink into my chest. Inside were contracts, invoices, copies of passports. And among them, a photograph. Mom. Young, beautiful, smiling. The man next to her is not my father. Who is that? I asked. Sergey frowned. It's not who you're thinking of. It's Viktor Savitsky. He was your father's lawyer. And, apparently, her lover. I looked at the photo like a knife stabbed into the past. So she lied too. She was trying to protect you. Sometimes lying is the only way. I closed the folder. And now? What should I do with this truth? He looked at me. First, we need to figure out who owns all this now. We found documents where my name appeared. I, Lena Arkadieva, was listed as the owner of 2 offshore companies and a construction company in Kaliningrad. The signatures were clear and neat. Not mine. Who signed for me? I asked. Sergey took out the sheet of paper and laid it out. Here. See the initials? Versus S. Savitsky. Exactly. I ran my hand over the line. So he forged the signature to hide something registered in my name? Yes. And then he disappeared. Or maybe they helped him disappear, I added. Sergey nodded. Perhaps the same people who killed your parents. We were silent. A dim light fell through the window, illuminating the dust particles in the air. Everything around seemed unreal, as if this wasn't my life, but someone's old movie, shot on worn film. Your hands are shaking, he said quietly. I looked, and indeed they were. He reached out and gently touched my fingers. Warmth. Alive. Real. This is all hard, he said. But you have to get through this. And you? He smiled slightly. I've been through this before. Lost someone? Everyone who was my meaning, he answered shortly. I felt something inside me respond. The same emptiness, the same pain. I understood him, without words. We closed the folder. Sergey put it back. I'll make copies, he said. And let the originals stay here for now. Less risk. You think they're listening to us? He looked at the ceiling. It's possible. I chuckled. Excellent. Spies, archives, forged signatures. All that's left is for someone to shoot. He grinned. I hope not you. It all depends on who betrays first, I said. He stopped and met my gaze. And you think I can? I answered honestly, I don't know yet. We left the archives at noon. The air was damp, smelling of rain and metal. The sun was hiding behind the clouds, just like everything I now knew about myself. When we got in the car, he turned on some music. Old jazz, over the crackling radio. I couldn't help but say, a strange choice for a day like this. It helps you think, he replied. But it hinders me. Then be quiet and listen. I grinned. Are you ordering me? I'm suggesting. You have a strange sense of tact, Sergey. And you have a habit of arguing. We exchanged glances. And for some reason, we both smiled. As we drove, I thought of only one thing. My name had become a key. But a key to what? To money, to the truth, to someone's revenge? And what should I do now with the man next to me who seems to know more about me than I do? I looked at him. He was driving calmly, not looking at me, but I felt, he felt everything. My anxiety, my fear, my desire to never be alone again. And then he said quietly, almost in a whisper, you can still leave. And leave it all behind? Sometimes it's the only way to survive. But not the only way to understand why you live. He glanced briefly, and in that look was something that words can't express. There was fear, and something stronger than fear. We hadn't slept for almost 2 days. Sergey said we needed to act while everything was fresh, before the traces had time to disappear. I didn't argue, I didn't care whether I was tired or not. When everything you knew collapses, fatigue ceases to matter. We stayed in an old apartment, which, as it turned out, he rented for meetings with informants. Funny. Gray concrete, a table, a couple of chairs, an old coffee maker, and a man who seemed to be saving me, but kept talking as if he knew how it would all end. Here, look, he said, laying out the papers. On the table were copies from the archive, new extracts, photographs. Cerebro Limited is just the tip of the iceberg. The main network is registered in Estonia, and everything leads to this man. He showed a photo of a man in an expensive suit. Young, self-confident, with a certain coldness in his eyes. Who is that? Dennis Arkady EV. I didn't get it right away. Wait, this is your cousin. I grinned. We had no relatives. Mom always said there were none left. Mom didn't say a lot of things. I sat down. My hands were shaking. Are you saying he's the one behind all this? Sergey shrugged. I don't know yet, but his name is on the signed documents. He's on the board of directors. And he hesitated. I narrowed my eyes. And he was seen next to Viktor Savitsky a month before your parents' accident. Silence. As if the air had become thick, like syrup. So they all knew each other. And perhaps they decided to eliminate those who could reveal everything. I felt my insides twist. But why? For money? Money is just a tool. Sometimes people kill not for it, but to maintain the illusion of power. We sat across from each other. He, focused, precise, as always. I, distracted, between memories and anger. Sergey, I said quietly. Why are you helping me? He didn't answer right away. I knew your father. What? He nodded. He was my mentor. When I first started in the investigative department. He taught me to distinguish the truth from a convenient version. And you think you owe me for that? No. I decided I had to finish what he started. I leaned forward. What if this is all a trap? He looked straight at me, without a shadow of a doubt. Then I'll go there first. I was silent for a second. And then I exhaled. You have no idea how easy it is to believe you. He chuckled. And you have no idea how dangerous it is. We decided to meet with a man who had once worked for Savitsky, an accountant named Gleb. He lived in Pribrezhny, a small village by the sea. Sergey insisted that I stay in the car, but I disobeyed. Gleb turned out to be a thin, nervous man of about 40. He opened the door cautiously, as if expecting to be shot right through the lock. Are you from the company? He asked in a trembling voice. We want to talk about Cerebro Limited, Sergey said. Gleb turned pale. I have nothing to do with this. Are you sure? Sergey placed the folder on the table. Then why is your signature on the report for 2013? Gleb winced. That was a long time ago. I was just following orders. Whose? I interjected. He turned his gaze to me. A woman. She acted like she had everything under control. I thought she was Savitsky's wife. Her name? He hesitated. Lena. I went cold. That's my mother. Gleb lowered his eyes. She came to me often. She said everything was being done for our daughter. That it took time to legalize everything. Sergey said quietly. And then Savitsky disappeared. Your parents died, and the documents suddenly went to Dennis Arkady EV. Gleb nodded. I thought it was a coincidence. But then I started receiving money. Without a signature. Just into an account. Every month. Until last year. Who sent it? He shrugged. A company number. No name. When we left the house, the sky was already darkening. The sea roared somewhere very close, smelling of salt and rain. I stood on the cliff and looked into the distance. So Mom knew, I said. She was involved. Sergey remained silent. And all this time I lived thinking we were an ordinary family. It's not your fault, Lena. I turned to him. What if she wasn't a victim? What if it all started with her? Even so, you don't have to bear her guilt. But I can't get rid of her. This is all in my name. On me. He stepped closer. Then we'll just clear your name. Simple? I chuckled. You say it's like cleaning the apartment. Maybe so. Only this apartment has smelled of blood for a long time. When I looked at him, he was already standing almost right next to me. There were just a few centimeters between us. Too close to forget who he was. and too close to not wanting to step closer. Do you know what you're doing? He asked quietly. No, I replied. But for the first time in a long time, I am not afraid. He leaned in slightly. For a split second, I thought he was going to kiss me, but he only said, then hold on to this feeling. It's worth more than all the names you'll ever find. And he went to the car. I didn't sleep that night. I sat by the window and thought about how strangely quickly roles can change. Yesterday, I was an accountant with a quiet life and a shadow of resentment. Today, I am the person in whose name companies, dirty money, and possibly someone's death are registered. And tomorrow? Tomorrow, I might be the one who takes revenge. I didn't know what to expect from my meeting with Denis Arkadyev. Sergei had called him a complex individual, and by his standards, that meant a dangerous man. He had arranged to meet at a restaurant by the waterfront. The place was too open, too beautiful for conversations about death and betrayal. I arrived 10 minutes early. The rain was drizzling, like dust. Behind the glass were white tablecloths, warm lamplight, and soft music. Everything seemed like it belonged in another world, one in which I no longer belonged. Lena Arkadyeva, a male voice said behind me. I turned around. Denis. The same man from the photograph, only now alive. Tall, in an expensive coat, with a smile that conveyed nothing. Neither joy nor anxiety. Only control. We finally met, he said, taking my hand. It's strange to see a relative after so many years of silence. Especially when you learn of her existence by accident, I replied, not looking away. His smile widened. Family loves surprises. Please, let's sit. He ordered wine, I ordered coffee. We sat opposite each other, and silence hung between us, thick as glass. I know why you're here, he said first. Sergei still believes he can get to the bottom of things. And you? I know no one cares about the bottom line. People want to believe beautiful lies. You say you made it up yourself. Maybe. Or maybe you've just learned to live with it. I sighed. I need the truth. About my parents. About the company. The truth won't make you feel better. But it will give you peace. Or the last one will take you. He looked me straight in the eye, calmly, with a slight smile. It was the look of a man accustomed to deciding destinies without raising his voice. Tell me frankly, I couldn't resist. Did my father die by accident, or did he have help? He leaned back in his chair, looking somewhere past me. He knew too much. And your mother loved too much. Who? He turned his gaze to me and suddenly said quietly, me. The words struck me like an electric shock. I didn't even immediately understand what he said. What? We were close, Lena. Before everything collapsed. You're lying. Why would I care? He bowed his head. No one is alive anymore who could have been harmed by this. I felt as if the world had tilted beneath my feet. Mom. And him? So, you've known about me since childhood? I asked quietly. I knew you existed. But I didn't think you'd ever come back. He paused, then added quietly, you're very much like her. Even too much. My heart pounded harder. Don't you dare say that. He chuckled. You're angry. Which means you're alive. That's good. We were silent. The waiter brought the wine and placed the glass in front of him. Denis took a sip as if nothing had happened. Your mother wasn't a victim, Lena. She knew what she was doing. Then tell me, why all this? He looked straight at me. For you. It sounds stupid. Perhaps. But sometimes love takes ugly forms. It's not love, I said quietly. It's power. He nodded. And do you think they're different? When I left the restaurant, my hands were shaking. Sergei was waiting in the car. How did it go? He knows everything. And he's not saying anything. And you? I've heard enough to no longer doubt it, it's all connected. Savitsky, Mom, Dad, Denis, all one tangled mess. Sergey turned on the headlights. Then it's time to start pulling the thread. Careful, I said. There's too much blood in this thread. He looked at me, and I realized he'd seen it all in his eyes. In the way I was shaking. In how much I wanted to erase everything. That night, I sat alone. A glass of water sat on the table, a folder of documents nearby. Everything that once seemed like part of someone else's game was now my life. My phone vibrated. Message. From unknown number. You don't know everything about your mother. If you want to see her, come tomorrow to the old dacha by the Cape. Alone. I stared at the screen for a long time. My heart was beating fast but strangely calm. I knew I had to go. Because only those willing to step into the darkness can see what's really there. The dacha stood on the edge of a cape where the land dropped abruptly into the sea. The wind here was different, damp, salty, as if it had absorbed all the secrets of others. I arrived at dawn, alone as requested. Sergey slept for a few hours in the car outside the hotel. I hadn't left him a note. Let him be angry. Better anger than death. The door was ajar. I pushed it open, and the smell of damp and old wood assaulted my nose. The house looked as if it hadn't seen life in decades, but someone had recently been inside. A cup, still warm, lay on the table. You're punctual, a voice said. I turned around. A man emerged from the shadows. My heart sank. For a moment, I thought I was going crazy. Victor? I whispered. But you're dead. He smiled. You see, sometimes the dead just change their address. Everything spun. Viktor Savitsky, the man who disappeared 15 years ago, my mother's lover, the liar whose name was on the documents, stood before me, alive, aged, but still as confident. Why did you call me? I asked. To finish what I started. He came closer, looking straight at me. Your mother asked me to save you. From whom? From everyone, including herself. I frowned. Explain. She knew everything was falling apart. That your father had figured out about the accounts, about Cerebro Limited, about the connections to Dennis. She knew that if he told everything, they would kill him. But she didn't think they would kill her too. And you? Why didn't you stop her? Because I was already a target. Dennis wanted to get rid of all the witnesses. I stepped forward. So you ran away. Left her to die. He looked away. I thought she'd survive. She said she could handle it. And then, it happened. I felt my insides tighten. You knew about me. Why didn't you come? Because you were being followed. If I had shown up, you would have been eliminated. I stood there, unable to believe it. And you think I should believe you? I'm not asking. Just listen. He pulled out a folder. It's all here. Evidence. Transfers, invoices, signatures. Dennis orchestrated the accident. And then he blamed Savitsky, me. To cover for himself. I looked at the papers, not touching them. Why are you giving them to me now? He answered simply, because I'm dying. Silence. Only the wind outside the window. Cancer, he said, as if apologizing. I don't have much time. And if you don't do this, no one else will. Do what? Expose him. But not for revenge. For the truth. I clenched my fingers. And if I want revenge? He smiled weakly. Then be prepared to live with her. When I left the house, the sun was already rising over the sea. I walked through the wet grass, clutching the folder to my chest. And suddenly I heard footsteps behind me. Lena. Sergey. There was anger, fear, and relief in my eyes. Are you crazy? He almost screamed. Why did you go alone? Because it had to be done. He could have killed you. Or say something no one else will say. He fell silent, looking at me. What did you learn? That it all started earlier than I thought. That my mother loved the wrong man. That my father's death was no accident. And that we both now hold the end of this chain in our hands. Sergey stepped closer. And what are you going to do? I looked him straight in the eye. Burn everything. He frowned. What? All the documents. All the evidence. Let them die with those who created them. This is madness, he said. No. This is freedom. I tossed the folder into the metal bin. Sergey didn't interfere. The flames slowly grew, licking the edges of the paper, turning the past to ash. The smell of burning paper mingled with the sea breeze. Aren't you afraid? He asked quietly. It was. But not anymore. He was silent, then said, then let's go. There's nothing more to find here. I looked at him. And if all this is in vain? Then at least you'll stop living someone else's life. We drove along the coast without saying a word. The sun rose, bathing the road in gold. Smoke slowly melted in the rearview mirror. I looked ahead and, for the first time in a long time, felt not emptiness but lightness. Yes, I had lost almost everything. But for the first time, this almost didn't scare me. Sometimes you have to reach the very edge to understand that falling isn't the end, but the beginning. Sergey looked at me, and I smiled. What? I asked. I just haven't seen anyone smile after revenge. Maybe it's not revenge, I said. Maybe it's forgiveness. He nodded. Then, Lena, welcome to your life.